Hey everybody, and welcome back to a very special episode of Podcast in the Sky with Diamonds. The boys and I are so ecstatic to be bringing you an exclusive interview with up-and-coming American Gothic singer-songwriter Brent Cowles. Brent released his latest record, How to Be Okay Alone, this past summer to great reception from music media such as NPR, to which he is now up for consideration for Slingshot's Best New Artist of 2018. And voting is still going on through the 15th, so we still have a few more days to get in there and show Brent some love. So please log on to npr.org/slingshot and cast your vote. We know he would definitely appreciate it. And while you're at it, why don't you go show him some love on all of your favorite social media and streaming platforms at Brent Cowles to catch up on all of his latest projects and see what he's up to next. You will not be disappointed. So without further ado, please enjoy the show. Testing 1, 2, 3.
When I'm feeling low.
Tonight.
Come fly with me, I'm not good I can't do
Someday.
So, like, I have a weird, vivid memory of not so much Fly Away With Me, but I think it was Rocco's Modern Life. One of the characters, like, sang, like, moonlit as, like, a singer under, like, a stage name, and he sounded just like Frank Sinatra, but instead of fly with me, it was come fry with me, let's fry an egg.
Oh, I love that. What is that? Rise and grind and eat some trash.
Hello?
Hi, Brent.
Hey,
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, how are you doing? Welcome to
Brent.
the show.
What's going on, man?
Hey, Brent.
Hey, everybody. I'm nice, just hanging out.
Nice. How
Cool.
was the end of tour?
It was good. It was a long run, but yeah, we're all home and happy, so I guess that's all you can ask for.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's good.
Awesome. Well, thank you for spending some time with us on your Monday night. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, thank you.
So, Brent, we're going to just kind of, this is going to be more kind of like a conversation. We're going to throw some questions at you, but we really want it to be comfortable, cool, because that's what we're all about here at Podcast in the Sky with Diamonds. So
Cool, calm, and collected.
Cool.
we got some pretty interesting questions for you, too. I hope you're ready. It's not your
Right on.
not your standard interview, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not right. It's a conversation with Brent Cowles.
Yes, exactly.
Which, by the way, I want to start right off the top and say you have an incredible voice.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Oh, thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I just started listening to you the other day in preparation for this episode.
Yep.
That's how I like to do things. I procrastinate until the very last minute. And How to Be Okay Alone blew my socks off, man. That song is incredible.
Oh, right
Like the
on.
title track. It's
Man.
unreal. I'm a big fan.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So this is our very, very first interview. And we would also like it to be known for you that you are the reason that I decided to get this thing going into gear in the first place.
Yep.
Neat.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, God.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure.
Hold on. I'm glad to be. I'm glad to help pioneer the shit.
Absolutely. Well, I'd been talking about it probably for about a
Like a
year.
year.
Yeah, about doing one because obviously we're big music fans over here, and I'm also a really big podcast listener. And I realized one day that I didn't have a podcast that gushed about music the way that me and my friends do. So I was kind of just I was waiting for something to kind of like kick me in the ass. And it was seeing you perform Places at the end of your set at the Sheepdogs that absolutely blew my mind. You can even ask Andrew. I was totally in awe of you the whole entire time.
Oh, yeah. And then afterwards,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
so, like, I ran out to, like, go to the bathroom in between sets, and then when I came back, I saw you out at the merch table. I'm like, oh, cool. Now when I went back, Meg was like, oh, I really want to talk to him. I'm like, well, dude, he's right out there at his merch table. I mean, why don't you go ask him to, like, be on our show? Like, worst thing you can say is no. And then she was like, oh, I don't know.
Totally.
I'm like, oh, just go do it. And then,
Hell
you
yeah,
know,
you never know. It's always worth trying.
exactly. And now here you are. So obviously you said yes. So then when Meg came back, she was just gushing. She was like, oh my God, he saves. I'm like, that's great. I'm like, we need to actually start a show for him to come on, though. So we need to get on that. And here we are.
Literally the next day, I had the graphic done. I had the title done. I was looking up media hosting. I was like, there's no way that I can let an opportunity like this pass me by after such like a kind of like a sign from the universe. Like, you kind of have to do this. So we did. And now we've gotten a great reception. So snaps for you, Brent.
So thank you for helping us get started.
We love it.
Glad to be of service.
Hell yeah. So, I guess, Mike, do you want to ask the very important question that's been on your mind?
Yeah, Brent, I'm going to start off this interview with the wildest question you're going to get this whole time, but I need to know because I looked up pictures of you, obviously, as one does,
Yes.
in preparation for an interview, and I need to know, what hair products do you use to keep that beautiful mane funky fresh? You have beautiful hair. And for anyone listening to this episode right now, look Brent's hair up. It's incredible.
My hair's got a mind of its own.
Okay.
Love it.
I spent the better half of my teenage years trying to control it and make it do what I wanted, and eventually I just realized I have to let it do its thing. So I don't use any product really. I put some conditioner in it, but then I never this might sound gross, but I never wash my hair ever.
I knew it. I was like, I bet his answer is going to be like he doesn't even wash it.
It's
and I
au
was
natural.
right. I am so pumped right now.
I love it.
Called it.
Au
Brent, your hair
natural.
is amazing, my friend.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
thank you. I appreciate
I
it.
love
You're
it
welcome.
so much. I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
your hair and your music.
It's one of the first things that Mike mentioned after I told him to look you up, because I mean, I've been listening to you basically since the night that I met you. I was listening to your album How to Be Okay Alone, and Andrew listened on and off too, but
Yes.
I was kind of like, Mike, trust me. Like, you're really going to get into this. And literally the next day he was like, so his hair. I was like, I mean, the music's great too, but the hair, absolutely.
I had
You're a
to
complete
get
package.
it out of the way.
I
so.
mean, in general, you just got a really, really unique and cool look about you. You're unconventional, which is probably why I was so drawn to your artistry and your music in the first place, honestly.
Oh yeah, I think people are kind of. I think there's a need for genuine connection out there, and I think it's funny how, like, the more real you are and the more true to just what your craft is, I think that's what people are going to connect with the most. It's easier when you can relate to something, and if it stands out and you can find some sort of common ground or some sort of like, hey, that's fucking cool. Like, I think that's where the connection happens. With today's music, at least, people are sick of just the disconnect between, like, rock stardom or this internet fame that people can so quickly acquire. I think there's a need for real instruments and real
Preach, brother, preach.
real intention. Yeah, it's important, I think, for people to have something genuine to latch onto, and hopefully we're hitting that wave as soon as it's starting.
Oh, without
sure.
without a fucking doubt. I'm seeing this resurgence, I think, in smaller indie folk bands, or just like the indie genre in general. I'm a big fan of those bands, and what I see the most is just like this really raw poetry to the lyricism and the use of the instruments and the sound. And I don't know if you're familiar with them. Mike and I went and saw a band called Mount Joy a few weeks ago, and it was almost surreal to see everybody packed into this little room in Boston and just like screaming the lyrics along with this band. And it's, I mean, I'll bring this up a little bit later too, but like, I grew up in a really religious family, so I find a lot of connection in real life, with what I saw growing up. And going to live music is basically like going to church for me.
Totally.
And,
that's gotta be the same pit in your stomach that wakes up, right? That people are finding in religion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, just being able to be surrounded by all of these other fans who are so passionate about the same music that you are, and connecting with these artists on stage. I mean, I'm sure it's surreal for you guys as well.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's fun. You get to a point where it's like, okay, I know how to get up there and play a show with through just about anything. You know, like you learn how to play a show when you're sick or when you're dealing with personal bullshit. Like you still have to get up there and perform, but when there's an audience that is connecting on this level with you, like it doesn't matter what else is going on. Like you're all of a sudden you're not thinking about playing music. You're just part of this experience, and you're feeding off the crowd. The crowd then feeds off of that, and it's just this cycle that turns into like those shows that give everybody goosebumps. You know, like when you walk away, you're just like, what the fuck just happened? That was insane.
Yeah, that was pretty much me at the end of your set. I mean, I still listen to Places, mostly when I'm having a bad day, and I played it for Mike earlier because he hadn't gotten that far in your album. And I was literally, the second I turned it on, I got chills. So I guess that'll bring me to like the first question that I really wanted to talk about, was how did your religious upbringing impact you as an individual and also your work as an artist, especially in songs like Places?
I mean, I think growing up with religion, I think gave me a lot to go off of morally. Like it just gave me a compass kind of like, okay, well, you know, my dad was never one to be like, hey, you have to be the best at anything. He was just one to say, you have to do your best, and whatever happens, happens. But as long as you try your hardest, that's all anyone can ever ask of you. And I think I got that's like the positive side of things that I got from growing up religiously. And then you know, there's a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of bullshit behind the scenes that people just don't really talk about, and that I think, you know, turns the rest of the world off to religion, or people that just haven't been in that world, don't understand it, and I don't blame them. So it's, you know, it's a two-sided thing. I'm glad I grew up the way that I did, and hell, it gave me a lot of material to work with musically, which, you know, I'm both grateful and a little, you know, there are things I wish I didn't experience growing up in the church, but at the same time, I learned a lot from it. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. But at the same time, I think growing up in general is just fucking hard.
Yeah.
Yes,
it is.
No matter
Amen.
where you are in life, it's tough. And so, you know, I think if you have family, or if you built a family through friends, or having a support system, I think is very important, and that's always been helpful to me. But yeah, I think I've written a shit ton of music just about my experiences growing up in the church, or my views, or just how I see the world, and I know it influences that a lot.
I know, speaking from me as a fan, not just as a critic of music, that I think I related to you a lot, because I mean, I wasn't aware of your childhood and stuff growing up until I read some of your stuff on NPR. They had like a little summary and a bio of you. I also am an artist. I mean, I write poetry and whatever, and in a lot of my poetry, I use religious metaphors. So it was really easy to pick some of those up in your songs. So it was really nice to have other people who grew up in that environment see that, you know, both sides of the coin in terms of that situation. So that was really cool for me, and I'm sure many of your other fans have said and felt the same way as well.
Yeah, totally.
So I guess in general, we're all wondering, what were your biggest influences musically growing up, and, you know, who impacted your sound today?
Yeah, I mean, so as a kid, I didn't really have a ton of musical interest, or just super, like, my parents have both been into, like, they've always loved music, I think. But as a child, I listened to a ton. Like my dad would listen to, you know, James Taylor and Chicago and Journey and Bon Jovi. And,
classics.
You know, yeah. So, and there's some great classics in there for sure. And Bread, I fucking love Bread.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But
vinyl at home.
But yeah, and then it was like I was in my teenage years, like it was that music, and then it was Christian music if it was something that I was, you know, allowed to discover on my own. But then when I was like 13, somebody showed me my first Tool record.
Oh my
Okay.
god!
Nice. Nice.
And it was like I'd never even heard guitar's distortion or that amount of like anger put into lyrics, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Um,
I got a chance to
and it's
see
just
them
kinda
last
like-
year. And I can completely
hell
agree with
yeah.
you. It's unlike anything I've ever heard before. It's incredible.
Totally.
Sorry to
Well, it's
interrupt.
just- they're so unique, and there's so much depth there that you don't get through like classic pop music or like you just don't get that unless it's rock and roll from like the depths of hell or whatever.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it opened up a whole new world to me of like, whoa, music is more than I thought it was. This is like, you can use this to just like get shit off your chest. And that was kind of when I discovered songwriting for me. I started to learn guitar. I was 13 and learned enough to put a few chords together, and then just kind of let the floodgates open from there.
Well, there you go.
That's so awesome.
So you could definitely kind of say then it was that moment, like when you discovered rock and roll and like Tool and all this awesome stuff that you were like, yeah, like I want to make music too, because I realize I can do this now, looking at like this wide berth of it all.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people feel like that about rock and roll too.
Yeah.
I
Brent-
mean, I know I did.
Brent, do you remember what Tool album it's just such a weird out of left part question, but do you
Well, I could tell you what song it was. It
Oh.
was Schism.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
that's awesome. Honestly,
awesome.
listening to your music,
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily peg you as a Tool fan, but I'm very happy to know you are.
Oh, totally. Yeah, well, it's funny. It's like that kind of opened some doors for me, and I was into that for a minute, but then I discovered like that. I mean, it was after that I discovered the Beatles and Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Whole Motown soul.
Oh,
world,
yeah.
Awesome.
Sam Cooke and Otis Redding. Like, so from there, when I say it opened a door, it's like
It opened like
it
a
was
floodgate.
the biggest musical door I think that exists.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I relate
so
to that
cool.
so hard. I feel like that's how a lot of my friends felt once they started getting into that older sound and seeing how the artist can be so creative and how it was okay to be that creative. I mean, but rock and roll in general was that whole counterculture idea, where it was the first thing that told, the youth that it's okay to be you and you have this voice and here's an outlet for you to express yourself. And then everybody started identifying with it.
Totally. So, I mean, I feel like today's youth, it's almost like everyone has this idea of like, hey, I'm going to pave. It's like the rock and roll path of like, I'm going to pave my own way. I'm going to make my own path, blaze my own trail.
Oh,
and it
for
has
sure.
nothing to do with the traditional way of getting success. And I almost wonder if it's like, cool, well, like that, maybe that's where this want for like real music that just comes from like, I'm doing this my way, part of your soul,
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's something definitely a lot of people, or at least in the relative term of the youth, like our age, at least us here, can totally like identify with for sure. Like feeling the legit passion in someone's music. It's not manufactured,
Yeah. And we'll
Totally.
we talk about that again and again, even in our other podcasts, that like it's the passion behind the music that drives us and that makes us also feel so passionate. Like when you can see, like if I'm watching videos of my favorite artists playing their instruments and performing their music, being able to see them in the moment, like completely encompassed by it is like an adrenaline rush. Like it's so
Totally.
it's beautiful for me to see artists showcasing their work live, like whether it's poetry or songwriting or anything like that. Like it's just, I love seeing people passionate is pretty much what it is. So that I feel like that's why everyone can connect to the music that you make and artists similar than you, is because we can see it in your face and in your body language. And that's amazing, because I feel like with a lot of other performers, like the big stadium artists, not to like shit on them because they're all valid musicians in their own right, but I don't feel that way so much about them as I do with these smaller, more intimate live shows.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's like, I mean, if you're how do you stop success? You know, like if you're moving that fast and you start like, you know, okay, all of a sudden I can't fit enough people in 3 nights at a club level show.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, we move up to the theater, and then you move to the, you know, whatever. It's a ladder that you can climb, and I totally get what you're saying. I think it's like a contagious drug.
It is.
That when you see someone have that much passion about what they're doing, and you almost like, you see someone on stage and you're there to see that person experiencing what they're experiencing. It's almost like you start feeling that feeling, like, and it's real. Like, that's why we all pay money to go see shows. That's why the whole concept of a concert exists, is because there's a connection there.
Oh, absolutely.
That we can't deny it, and we can't get it necessarily anywhere else. But yeah, it you don't necessarily get that at a stadium show. So it's like, do you, as an artist, change your show to be something different for like, not necessarily the music, but like the production and how it's done? Because it's like, what do you expect out of a stadium show?
Well, I think
to make it good.
Yeah, and I think too, I wanted to mention that I go to quite a few stadium shows on top of all of the smaller shows that I go to, and one of the bands that I've seen multiple times, and I can sort of back up and what they do to kind of overcome that stigma with, like, okay, how am I going to connect with 25,000 fans?
It gets lost in translation.
Is Mumford and Sons.
Oh yeah,
and, you know, they're very mainstream now, but I've seen them a few times, and they come out into the crowd. The first time I saw them, they did a whole B stage, and they came out into the crowd, and just that little bit, I've seen a couple bands do that, and just even that little bit helped connect. And I think honestly, it's easier for an artist to connect in a smaller venue just because of the actual venue. It's small. People are up close and can see your emotions, like in person. They can see the sweat on your face rather than looking at it on a video screen. It's much easier to connect with someone when you're 10 feet away from them as opposed to 10 yards away from them.
Yeah,
yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, you'll always hear intimate in the same sentence as smaller venues, right? It's like,
exactly.
They're synonymous almost. And it's like, yeah, man, it's super small. It's an intimate show. You're going to love it. Like I think that's why the smaller venues have that connection. And to touch on that, like, bands having, you know, doing well in the larger scale of things, like, I think Mumford is a great example. And I think, Foo Fighters, like they put on one of the best shows I've ever, like, it's insane what Dave Grohl does. And I don't like, I'm half that dude's age, and I don't know how he has the energy that he has. It's like that drug of just like, this is my favorite thing in the world to share with people.
I can first
and you get
attest
to do
that.
it as a like but it's like, not everybody can make that connection on a show that big, you know.
Oh, no, for sure.
It definitely takes a certain type of person to be able to stand up there and connect with like thousands of other people.
Even when he broke his fucking leg and was sitting in a chair.
Still out there.
Like,
I saw him on that tour. It was nuts. It was awesome, but it was nuts.
And like now he brings
like it was still good. Like,
yeah,
that's fucking awesome.
He still brings the chair around. He brought it around on their last tour and let people sit in it. Like he put it outside the gates of the shows. And I was supposed to go to see them at Fenway this past tour, but I saw people posting pictures in the actual chair. It was like you could line up and sit in the chair that Dave Grohl sat in on the Sonic Highways tour. I think it's so cool. Like,
you know, someday that'll be in like the Rock and Roll
Hall
of
going
Fame.
to be.
Yeah, it was like he also gave that chair to like Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses when he broke his leg, and he was like, "Hey, Dave Grohl, can I borrow your crazy rock and roll throw?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So, you know, a lot of famous butts have sat in that chair.
Yeah,
totally.
Totally. I mean, like, to touch on the age thing, last September I saw Paul McCartney live in a really big stadium in Syracuse, and he was 75 at the time, and even then, like, he's old. He played for 3 straight hours. No opener, didn't even take a fucking water break, and he went hard.
He doesn't even have water on stage.
No.
He drinks T. I don't know how that's possible. It's crazy.
I've seen one person do T live, but that's because they were like the vocalist, and it was also a small venue, and they're like, "Oh, that's tea in that cup."
Yeah. Well, you on one hand you have Eddie Vedder drinking 3 bottles of wine at a show, and on the other hand you have Paul McCartney drinking a couple cups of tea. It's just crazy the things that artists can do. But I mean, I think the tea, and I've heard Dave Matthews. I'm a big Dave Matthews fan. I'm sorry to everyone listening, but I'm not sorry. I love him. But he drinks tea on stage all the time, and he's talked about it, and he's struggled with vocal problems. And there's obviously there's been a few mainstream artists that have had that granuloma surgery on their vocal cords.
It's like Adele and Sam Smith.
Yeah,
and they've had to go and get it removed. And tea is one of those things that helps prevent that and keep your.
Well, now we know why Paul
apparently,
does it.
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, he's super British, but I mean, he's 75, so I mean, his voice definitely has changed from how it sounded with the Beatles in the 60s to how it sounds today. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there were a couple of years between then.
Yeah,
and now,
just a couple. But yeah, there's definitely.
Yeah, those high notes get higher the older you get.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But going back to like the main point, it definitely takes a certain type of person to be able to pull that off, and the people who do it really fucking well. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, snaps for them. Goddamn.
Brent, one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I think it's pretty interesting. And I might be going off topic here, guys, but
Yeah, okay.
I wanted to ask you if you could pick one artist that's currently touring. If there was a genie that came and granted you one person that is currently a touring artist, not someone that's dead or something like that, someone that's currently touring, who would it be?
Wait. So what's my goal with this touring artist? Like to tour with, or
if you could pick one artist to tour with, and it could be someone that you musically connect with or someone that you just idolize, who would it be? And it's got to be someone that's currently a touring artist or is alive. I should say alive.
Definitely Alabama Shakes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you.
God.
That would be an
I love
awesome
them.
show.
That would be a dope show.
Brittany Howard is I think she's otherworldly. I think she's got a voice that is not of this planet.
No,
I completely agree with that.
Live and recorded I don't think you can, it's hard to top that, and Sound and Color is one of my favorite records that I own on vinyl, and that's standing up to all the classic records I have. I think they're one of the most brilliant bands of this time.
I remember the first time I listened to them, I was just blown away. It didn't sound like they were from this generation or coming out as an artist in this realm. It's just her voice is incredible. I completely agree with that.
So what else do you got in your record collection as, somebody else who has a very vast vintage record collection? What are your other faves?
The White Album is one of my favorites to go to.
Amen, brother. Fucking men.
Yeah.
I love the White Album.
It's just got so many good songs on it. And I feel like every time I listen to it, since it's a double LP, I'm always like, oh, wait, what? That song's on here too?
Yep.
You kidding me? It's so good. I love Yankee Foxtrot Hotel by Wilco.
Ooh, that's a good album.
Mm-hmm.
That's a favorite. I just recently got Yellow Eyes by Raylan Baxter.
Oh,
okay.
So not his most recent, but the one before that.
I love that one.
It's such a good listen. The whole record is really good.
I mean, the title track is, it's so good. There's even a Beatles reference in that song. But yeah,
totally.
One of my favorites. I found that actually from my Spotify Discover Weekly. I think this time last year that popped it up. I love Discover Weekly. I don't know if you use Spotify too, but
oh, totally. Yeah. I've discovered. I'm pretty sure that's how I found Raylan Baxter, was Discover Weekly. As
perfect.
Well.
Yeah,
Awesome.
We're all big Spotify fans over here, premium members for many years.
And we are currently now on Spotify officially as a recognized Spotify podcast. It's pretty awesome. So we just celebrated that the other day. So I'm pretty excited about that. But
hell yeah.
So Mike mentioned earlier he really loves the title track "How to Be Okay Alone." So we kind of want you to let's dissect that song a little bit, if you will. What's the inspiration for it? How'd you write it? basically anything that comes to mind in terms of creating that beautiful masterpiece. Honestly,
it's so beautiful. I was listening to it. I've listened to it a bunch since it was the first song I listened to. When I looked you up on Spotify, I was like, okay, this seems like it's a song I would probably like the title of.
Yep.
And I clicked it, and I was blown away. I mean, so if you can expand upon it a little bit,
walk us through it.
Yeah,
as a fan of music in general.
Totally. That song was just kind of something that happened. Like some songs take a long time to develop, and other ones for me just kind of it happened within like the span of an hour or so.
I get that.
But the making of it, like the idea behind it, because I wanted to call the record "How to Be Okay Alone" long before that song was written.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And it was just because I wrote it in a notebook. I always have a notebook on me because I write down like if I have a lyric idea or just a thought that could become a lyric, or if I just need to get something on paper, I have something to write on. And I was going to make a list of like, all right, how to be okay alone, and then I'll just fill in the list as I figure it out.
There you go.
And I never made a list. It was just like, there were thoughts after that thought, and it just kind of got buried. And as I was looking back through the notebook, I saw it again, and I was like, that's the name of the next record, because that's kind of a very common theme in everything I've been thinking about while I'm writing. And so it was the title of the record before the song happened. And then 2 weeks before we went to record the record, I broke my hand while I was riding my bike. I bought a 7-speed cruiser with a 2-stroke motor on it.
Oh my god!
Which, let me tell you, that fucking ruled until the bike malfunction. Like all the brakes weren't quite done right, and they detached from the bike and went into the front spokes and sent me flying like I don't even know how far. But I busted up my face a bit and then broke 2 bones in my right hand.
Damn.
2 weeks before we were going to record the record.
Oh my god!
So I did that whole thing in a cast, and then we had to play a few shows. And 6 weeks later, the record's almost done. Because we went to Joshua Tree or Yucca Valley really to record the record.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Very nice.
And then when we got home, we did a bunch of overdubs and all that shit. And so when I got the cast off after we got home, it was kind of the first time I sat down with my guitar to start writing again, and that song just happened. So we recorded it, and then we decided to put it on the record.
Very cool.
Fucking love that. That's how
such an interesting story. I love that.
I mean, aside from breaking your hand on your bike,
I don't love that, but
yeah, that part sucks. And I'm totally glad you're okay and everything's good now. But I noticed for me a lot of my poetry and stuff also comes when you're not expecting it. It's like a spur of the moment thing, and I also keep a little notebook around and write down little lines or lyrics or whatever, even when I'm at work, and I work retail. So I'm like on the floor trying to talk to customers and also scribbling down lines that I just kind of throw together at the end of the day. Would you say that's kind of how your writing process goes in general? Like, I just love, like I said before, I love hearing how artists work and how their brains work. So,
yeah, I mean, basically for the most part, I have all these notebooks with thoughts and ideas, who knows what written down, and it could just be, it could be the start of a sentence that has something to do with a completely different thought, but it sparks an idea when I go back through and I'm looking at it. But I keep those notebooks going 24/7. If I have a thought, I have to write it down. And then when I sit down to write music, I've got, my guitar, and I run through. Like I'll sit down and run through a bunch of ideas for melodies, chord progressions and just music bed type things. And then you start to marry the two, start to find like, well, this lyric sounds good with this melody. I'm wondering, can I make something out of these two things? And it's just this chaotic kind of process of elimination, matching different melodies and ideas. And, if you start to feel excited about like a topic that you've come up with, or that I've come up with through my notebook or whatever, that's usually when I know I'm going in the right direction. Like you get that feeling of like, oh, this makes me feel something, and don't know what yet, but I have to follow that idea because it's super important. Like that, those gut feelings are those are the ideas that other people are going to connect with.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. So what is a favorite song of yours, or maybe a song in general, that's so good and that you connect with so well that you kind of wish you wrote yourself?
Ooh.
I know. Take a second.
That's a tough one.
It's
That's
a loaded
really,
question. We know.
That is a tough one.
I would say one of the songs that I've always wished I'd have written was Jesus, etc. on Yankee Foxtrot, the Wilco record.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
I will look this up. I promise you.
Yeah. No, it's such a good song. It's catchy. It's simple. It's not like it doesn't try to do anything. Like it exists and it's so fucking good. Like it's like one of those things. Like there are songs where they're so epic and so intense. You're just like, how do you not love this? And then there are songs where it's like, it sounds like he didn't even try and he wrote a masterpiece. Like what the fuck, man? So that's Wilco. Jeff Tweedy for me is like one of the most brilliant songwriters of all time.
Oh, absolutely. His lyrics are very cool to like sit down and really take a deep dive into some of his stuff.
Oh yeah, you're right up Andrew's alley right now.
Very much so.
For sure. Hell yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking about this when you were just talking about your songwriting process, Brent. I was just thinking about, have you ever had a song that you sort of struggled with and it took you a while, like one that really sticks out when you hear this question, like a song that you really struggled with and it took so much longer than you had originally hoped when you went into the songwriting process? Or then I
mean, I don't know if I have one that took longer than I would have hoped, because it's like one of those things where it's like anytime I try to finish a song before it's ready to be done, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like it just there's, you know what I mean? Like it loses all that like that initial momentum that you have when you first started writing it. But yeah. I like the song Tequila Train.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's another one I love.
That song, I there's probably like 10 different choruses that song had lyrically. Like the melody was pretty much the same, but like the lyrics changed.
Really?
So many fucking times. We didn't solidify them until we were in the studio. Like we're like, all right, this is it, right? These are the lyrics.
Oh my God.
Like I guess.
It's totally. Oh, and it just has to go through. I mean, certain, any kind of creative person will tell you, like, it's hard to know when something's done.
Yep.
And that was one of the harder things to know. It's like, I don't know if these are the right lyrics, but I feel like we've exhausted all the possibilities, and these are the ones I feel the best about. And then once you do it and it's recorded and it's done, it's like, yep, those are the lyrics. They're done. Yep. That's it. I'm not changing them anymore.
Now I got to go make sure I don't fuck up and sing the other lyrics on stage in front of people.
Oh, dude. That's gonna happen no matter what. Lyrics are hard,
but this story is now.
I mess up.
Yeah, this story is now out there. I was gonna say
so. Right.
Yeah. So if you mess it up, now you're gonna have fans that know this story now, that are like, okay, we want him to do the.
I mean, now anytime you mess up, you give that audience their own experience. It's like, you know what I mean? Like it's like if I get all the lyrics right during a show, I'm probably not having any fun, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's funny how much you notice as a performer, but nobody really picks up on it because everybody's just like, if you know the lyrics, then you're going to hear what's supposed to be there in your head. If you don't know the lyrics, then you have no idea. I'm messing them up terribly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a win-win either way.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Really cool.
So I'll ask you a question that is asked in my favorite movie, Almost Famous. I don't know if you've seen it or not. If you haven't, it's a great one. He asks, what do you love about music? Give me your simplest answer. What is it about music that you love so much?
It's fun. It's like, and on a level that I can't match otherwise. It's the funnest. And to call that a job is fucking stupid. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me that I can have so much fun doing something that I love so much and it's ever changing, it's ever evolving, and sometimes that's in a good direction, sometimes it's not. You gotta do your best to have good judgment, but it's so exciting all the time, and you get used to the fact that you don't really know what the next thing is or the next chapter in your story, but it's going to be an adventure, and you get to do it with your friends, and you get to meet so many people while you travel, and like it's just the whole thing. If it's not fun, you're not doing it right, and you're going to end up hating it. And that's as soon as it stops being fun, the music suffers, and the business suffers, and you just don't. You're not having fun performing, and then nobody's going to connect with that. So I think fun, which is what a simple explanation, but I think it's the most important thing to this job.
Now that was a great fucking answer. I don't know what I was expecting, but that was beautiful.
I'm very happy that was the answer you gave, though. It was like, I very much feel with that. Like, I act like I know how to make music in my free time. So, I feel like music's fun for me. I love to just sit down and play, lets it all out.
Yeah, I don't know if you had the chance to listen to any of our episodes before you came on, but Andrew actually wrote the intro and outro closing riffs to each episode that our listeners hear. So he's not half bad.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and it's fun, right? Like it's fun, like you enjoy doing it, and that's why it starts in the first place, right? You're not going to start playing music because it was the best, college choice to make. Like that,
absolutely.
Nobody's going to suggest you do that for a living.
No. I make my music for fun because it's like you said, it's just fun. You get to like be you. You just get to just let it happen.
Exactly.
You like, and the music you create is just like, this is my sound. Like I feel that way about music that I listen to, like, oh, like this band is my sound, or like this specific song, like it completely defines me. But I can only imagine what it's like for musicians like you and like even Andrew, who like pretends like he knows how to make music in his free time, even though he's a fucking brilliant guitar player. That like you're making music that's you. Like I can only imagine what that feels like. I'm envious.
I'm very envious too, because I don't know how to play shit.
Yeah, me neither.
Like I am just a super fan of music.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've never tried it?
But that's half of it. There's no one would make music that can, like, if there weren't people that really gave a shit and cared, and not everyone has to be a musician, but like without both sides of loving to make it and loving to just be there to receive it, like we would not be talking right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so true. I've never really thought of it that way. That was like very profound, Brent. That was
he's brilliant.
I'm kind of sitting back here. I'm just like, wow, holy shit. That's something there. Yeah. I never really thought of it that way. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, man.
Awesome.
We're all pieces in this puzzle.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing all of this music to us. I mean, I'm certainly blown away by you as an artist. I think you make some really music that people can relate to, and it's really raw, and it's got a lot of emotion, and it's just the whole sound of it is so nice. I just like it. Case in point, it's your girl right here. We wouldn't be sitting here really if it wasn't for him, and it just keeps going back, like it inspires, and it continues to inspire, and I'm sure it'll inspire our listeners to hear you and to listen to our episodes, and that's a beautiful thing, is tracing that line back. It's really something else to witness. Yeah. And so, Brent, so sort of like just one final question. So, like, what's your next steps? I know you just got back from your pretty lengthy tour. So what are you going to be up to, musically wise, for the next little bit of time?
I've got a tour coming up in November. It'll be like Europe, UK.
Ooh.
Very cool.
Congrats.
Places.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm going to go over as a duo, and then we'll be opening for a band called Israel Nash.
I have listened to them. I'm not super duper familiar with them, but I know that I do have some songs of them saved on my very, very expansive Spotify library. So I do.
Yeah, they're great musicians, great dudes. So yeah, that'll be like, I think like second half of November. And then getting home after that, we have a hometown show in December in Denver at a place called the Bluebird.
Oh,
Awesome.
very
And
nice.
then and then we're just working on the next record pretty much. We'll start I'm writing it right now, and then we'll be hopefully recording end of December, January, and then hopefully the plan is to have at least a single out in the springtime, and then start talking about an album released in fall of next year.
Killer.
Yeah, just
yeah.
as a side, if you ever come back up to Massachusetts or the Boston area again, we have space in our studio if you're ever interested in coming on and doing a live show with us. Just
general banter and shooting the shit about random stuff.
Yeah, we'll basically be doing what we're doing right now, but you'll be with us live at the table, and we have room for you to do like an acoustic set or whatever you're interested in. But we would really love to sit down with you again and talk to you, because I know for me this has been an amazing experience to sit down and chat with you tonight for sure.
So thank you, Brent. We really appreciate it.
We'll make it happen. I'm happy to chat.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes,
We're
definitely.
happy that you were happy to chat as well.
Well, Brent, thank you so much
Yeah,
for coming on and chatting with us today.
Hanging out with us for a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do so.
Yeah,
we're happy that you've been here to sit down and talk with you, get to know you a bit.
Yeah, this has been. I'm like giddy right now. Like you can ask the guys sitting across the table from me. I was so excited about this, and I'm so happy we could sit down with you for about an hour. Actually, that was really great. So we'll definitely keep in touch.
Yeah.
Definitely send us your stuff, whether it's on our personal accounts on social media, or even you can hit us up on our actual Podcast in the Sky accounts, because we would love to hear what you're going to be putting out. And let us know when you're coming back in the area, and we can try and schedule something and have you in here.
Yeah, or if anything, just so we can go see you at one of your shows, because I'd love to see you live again.
Oh hell yeah!
I would like to see you live, because they've both seen you live and I have not.
Yeah,
and I'm very jealous.
We like to go to live shows. We're going to a show actually at the end of this week, and we do a lot of live posting on Instagram and Facebook and whatever. So yeah, definitely let us know in general when your show is, so we can come out beforehand. Then we can shoot the shit the next day. We'll get some beers and whatever, and we'll have a good time.
Sounds great. Yeah, we'll do.
All right,
Awesome.
Thank you, Brent. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your night.
Yeah, thanks. You guys too. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey,
of course, not a problem.
All right.
We'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.